Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the DIY Remodel Show. that's how you case it out, and then we just gotta caulk it and fill the nail holes, and then I will show you how to install the barn door. Okay guys, now we're going to install our hardware. We have our laser set up on center of this trim. That's where we're gonna mount our bracket, or our rail, I should say. Okay, so we're gonna want our end of the rail to be flush with our trim up here on the left. So we're gonna measure over and we're gonna pre-drill a hole in line with each one of these pre-cut holes in the rail to mount it. It's important to pre-drill because you don't want to split the wood. This trim is wood up there. When deciding on what size drill bit you want to use for your pre-drill, just take the screw that you're going to be installing, and you want the drill bit to be the size of the screw shaft, not the threads. So now these are all 16 on center. However, I don't trust myself to measure that perfectly. So we're going to screw in the first hole, and that'll hold this in place, and then I can hold this up and go through and mark center of each hole along my line. Now that we have all our centers marked, we're going to pre-drill. Now if you're where you marked it is slightly off of your laser line or your level line, make sure you adjust for that. That was more so to get our left to right. Okay, next I'm going to loosely install the end one to hold it in place, and then we'll work our way down, and we're going to do it all loosely for now, and then we'll tighten them off as we go. You don't want to tighten it down too much now, because then you can't get your hardware behind it later. So I just want to show you guys the hardware I'm using and how it needs to be installed. It may be different on your barn door. There's lots of different styles. So this is the bracket that's going to sit almost like a mounting foot for the rail. And then this is a bushing that the screw will run through, and that'll sit inside the rail. So this has to contour to the rail, and so does this, all in line. Okay, now that everything's loosely installed, we're going to work our way across and tighten it down. Don't go ham on it, don't over tighten it. You could strip the screw out, the head of the screw, or you could strip it out of the wood itself. Make sure you follow your instructions per the manufacturer's recommendations. Like I said, there's tons of different styles of these out there. They're all relatively alike, but they're not the same. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is mount our wheels to the top of the door. For this specific model, it wants us to 2 and 61. Okay, so it wants us to be 3 inches off the edge to the center of the hole. So we'll mount both of these 3 inches from the edge of the door on top. Okay, and then same with these. We want to pre-drill for our screws as well. Hey, one tool that helps in many situations is an extension for your drill. Now here, if I was going to try to screw this in, my screw gun's going to hit this. There's no room to get past. So we'll throw the extension on, and then this can cleanly get past. If you try doing it without that, you're going to strip the screw out because it's going to be at an angle. These work great. I'll throw a link in the description for an extension. Okay, as another tip, make sure you use the correct tip for these too. This is a larger one. I think this is a number 3. Whereas your standard number 2 is what you'd use like for drywall. So after we get this hung, there's these safety catches. These are gonna go right here and here. They get attached to the Allen head, but you wanna wait till after you get it installed. Okay, something else I wanna note is we already put a notch in the bottom of the door. That way it can run on the track in the floor. Yeah, so as you can see there, it's a little bit easier, since I don't have the stops on yet, to just put those in now. Okay, now we're going to put our track in for the bottom, or our guide. We're going to switch back to our number 2. Okay, so you can either plumb the door with a, level, or you can measure the distance. I like to measure the distance because if this wall is a little bit out of plumb, and you plumb the door, then it might not sit parallel with the trim. So I'm going to measure the distance between the trim and the door at the top and bottom, make that the same, and that's going to be our plumbed door. Okay, I'm going to measure over our 1.25 inches. Set that. So you saw I positioned my stop flush with the end of the door. That's because this opening is pretty large, so we want to make sure that when the door is closed, the guide is still inside of the bottom of the door. Okay, now that we got our guide in at the bottom, got our rail secured, we're going to put in our stops. So I want the door to stop, so that way the reveal left on this trim is the same on either side. I'm just going to measure that until it's the same, and then we're going to slide our stop on and tighten it down, and then on the back we'll determine that when we get over there. Okay, now that our stops are installed, you can see we stop on that side. Okay, now the only thing we have left to do is install the handle and do a little bit of touch-up paint where we scuffed up the trim when we were installing it, and then we'll be done. Okay, so for our door handle, this is going to be on the outside, and then we got a flush plate for the inside. These are going to marry each other like this with the through bolt. So we decided to go 49 to the top of the handle, which is a little higher than standard, but it is a barn door and we're using pretty big hardware. So the bottom of this, will be about standard height for a door. Okay, so I've determined my location for the holes. I'm gonna send a pilot hole through first. We'll make sure it lines up on the inside. Okay, we're gonna wanna make sure that we drill through about 50% of the way from each side so we don't blow out the door. Okay guys, there you have it. That's how you install a barn door. The complete install from removing the pre-hung door to the barn door installation. If you guys gained anything from this, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to help grow the channel. And thank you guys for watching.